Hi everyone, and welcome to my lesson on halving and doubling. Okay, so we are going to use a couple of examples to see what halving and doubling is. And this week we've been using the 4 times table and the 8 times table, and both of those are even numbers. So let's start first of all by looking at what is an even number. So I've got my hundreds chart here. I'm just going to move my apple out the way. It's creating a shadow. An even number is anything that can be halved equally. So let's just look at these even numbers first. So 1 is not an even number because we can't really share 1 unless we get into fractions. So the even numbers are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Well, you get the picture. And 24 is 12 times 2. So half of 24 is 12, and double 12 is 24. So you need to start by understanding counting in twos, and you need to start by understanding that all these even numbers are in these columns. So you can go ahead and create a hundreds chart, and you can even color in those even number columns. Right, but enough of that for now. Let's look a little bit more. So halving is a basic concept of sharing. So if I have my apple up here, and there's 2 of us, and we want to share it equally, could I slice it over there? No, because it wouldn't be half. So halving is exactly sharing. So half is not a little bit on that side and a big bit on this side. Imagine sharing your chocolate with your sister or your brother and saying it's half, but it's not. So halving is exactly down the middle so that you have 2 halves. And in fact, for the older kids, that is your fractions, right? So that is one apple divided into 2 parts. Okay, making sense? Okay, so if I take half an apple and I want to double it, I put it back, whoop, and I got it back together. Okay, so that's half. So now let's look at a couple of things I've got here on the page. We did our 4 times table, so there are 4 beans. Can I share that equally? Can I halve them? Well, if there's 2 people that are wanting the beans, we would count them out. 1 for you, 1 for you, 1 for you, 1 for you. Brilliant. So now we've taken 4 beans and we've broken it in half, and each of us have got 2 beans. Perfect, right? Okay, now let's look at our 8 times table. We had 8 beans. Can we share those in half? 1 for you, 1 for you, and we keep going until we've used up all of our beans, and that's perfect. So 8 was an even number. We could halve them. One person got 4 and the other person got 4. So what is half of 8? It's 4. Fantastic. Now let's look at this funny biscuit. How are we going to halve that? Well, let's see if I can put it in half, if everybody would be happy. Oh, that's not bad, except I think I'm going to choose that bit. That's a bigger half. So it's not really in half, is it? So halving has to be like the apple. It has to be precise. Let's move that out the way. I'll eat that later. Now I've got the sugar. How are we going to halve that? Well, we're going to have to estimate because we can't. Sugar is uncountable. You can't say, can you pass me the sugars? You just pass sugar because it's too tiny. So in English, you learn about uncountable nouns like grass and sugar, but I've done a pretty decent job of cutting it in half. And when you ask somebody how many sugars they want in their coffee and they say, I'll have 2 sugars, what they really mean is 2 spoons of sugar. They don't want 1 little sugar and another little sugar. That's ridiculous. Okay, so your task for today is to find things in your environment that you can halve or double. So beans, biscuits, apples, and sugar would go very well. And then I want you to start representing it in an interesting graphic way. And the seniors, there's another video I've given you a link for that you need to watch, because that's at a higher level. But basically what I want you to do is, let's say you found your 8 beans. So you're going to write 8 at the top and put it in a circle. Then you're going to find what half of those 8 are. Okay, so juniors, something as simple as this. You take your hundreds chart and you start with the basic numbers. And just show me how you did that. And doubling would be representing it the other way, right? So if I wanted to know what double 5 is, I would start at the bottom. I put 2 5s, and what does that make? 10. So the seniors, what you're going to be doing is, or the middles as well, the middles need to be looking at remainders. So what if these numbers were not even? What if you had 13? Can you halve that? Well, the even numbers around 13 are 12 and 14, but you don't have 14. You've only got 13, so you've got to go one back. So what is half of 12? It is 6 and 6, and then we have remainder 1, because 6 plus 6 is 12, and we have 13. So that's a nice way to start understanding division and remainders. Seniors, you're going to work with higher numbers, and we're going to look at how to double and halve numbers like 472 or 4,725. So how would you go about doing that? So we can think of this in an interesting way, and the middles can do this as well. If we, let me get another piece of paper. Okay, if we have the number 32. 32 is broken up into 2 units and 3 tens. So 32 is the same as saying 30 plus 2. Can you see how they equal? So if you're not too sure how to halve a big number like 32, break it up into units and tens and then halve these first. So what is half of 2? Well, if you use our diagram method, there we go. This one's a little trickier. What's half of 30? Well, it'll be 15, and I'll show you that in a moment. Okay, so if these are the halves, what's half of 30? 15. What's half of 2? 1. If I add those back together, 16. So if we want to say represent what is half of 32, it would look like this. And then if we want to check it, we add our 16s back together. So 16 plus 16. 6 plus 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 1, 2, 3. There we go. We got our answer back again. So I hope that helps, and I want you to explore using different numbers from your hundreds chart. See if you can get your brain around this. How are we halving information? Now this 30 I want to just show you quickly. If you have 20, you can break them up into 2 tens quite easily. But if you have 30, how does that work? Well, 30 is the same as saying 10 plus 10 plus 10, because it's 3 tens, right? So what if we halve each one of those? Well, half of 10 is 5, another half of that 10 is another 5, and half of that 10 is also 5. If we added those together, 5, 10, 15. So you can see how learning to skip count and count on can be really, really useful when you're doing big numbers like this, especially when you're doing numbers I'm asking the seniors to do, which is numbers like that. Now the seniors can also represent halving by doing division by 2. So there's your challenge for the day. Enjoy.